mistakes. But I wanted to turn right now to Reverend Cassandra Gould. We have just linked up with St. Louis. She's executive director of the Missouri Faith Voices and pastor at Quinn Chapel AME in Jefferson City, Missouri. The debate is not that far from Ferguson, where Michael Brown was killed by police just a few years ago in the summer of 2014. And though the rest of the media isn't talking very much about this, there is a lot of organized protests that's going on around this second presidential debate. Reverend Cassandra Gould, talk about what's happening tonight.
Yes, there are a number of grassroots organizations locally from across the state and even across the country. Groups like Fight for 15, there are Black Lives Matter representatives here, No on Hate, and these groups have come basically to ensure that despite what may or may not be talked about amongst the presidential candidates, that real issues, real live issues from people on the ground who are hurting all across America will be noticed. And so they want to make sure that the American people remember, beyond some of the rhetoric that we'll hear tonight in the presidential debate, that there are some real issues that are worth fighting for, real issues that people should be talking about and that our candidates should be paying attention to.
And what are some of those issues?
There are many issues such as the fight for voter rights. There are still issues with police brutality in cities all across this country. Police oversight. The list of issues goes on and on. Fight for 15, they're fighting so that hardworking families can earn a living wage and be able to take care of their families.
Can you talk about the issue of voting rights in Missouri right now? The fact that it may be easier to get a gun than to be able to vote soon in Missouri.
Yes, I certainly can talk about that. That is something that, while it is a painful burden that I've been carrying, it is also near and dear to me. Voter rights in Missouri, as we know them, are actually up for grabs and at risk at this time. Our Constitution actually has a protection mechanism in it that says that there should be no additional requirements to be able to cast a vote. But right now, Amendment 6 says, and it'll be on our ballot on November 8th, that if it passes, people will be required to have additional photo ID, additional requirements, more than we've ever had before, and more than what the Constitution, the authors of our Constitution said were necessary. And so we're right now in a state that says it's easier to get a gun and to walk down the chute and shoot me than it will be for me to vote if this passes.
And what about your response to, I mean, are you hopeful about what Hillary Clinton has said on some of these issues, both the minimum wage, voting rights, all of that? Are you hopeful in what a Clinton presidency might make possible?
And, you know, I, as a church pastor and as well as a executive director of a nonpartisan group, I am very hopeful about the things that candidate Hillary has stated on both of these issues. She has stated a little more on these issues than the other candidate has, but I really am at a point where I am tired of just talk about what can happen. I recognize that in this election season, all we really get is promises from people, but we're really looking for candidates at every level, not just the presidential election. Reality is, it's really difficult to talk about a presidential election when people may not even have the right to vote or may have that right actually impaired.
And Reverend Gould, Missouri now the first state since the 2013 acquittal of George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin. Missouri is the first state to pass a so-called stand your ground law since that acquittal.
That is absolutely right. And I believe that the voter rights law that is pending on November 8th, as well as the Stand Your Ground law, are laws that were enacted as retaliation by our legislators. Retaliation for people who dare to go to the streets of Ferguson and demand that Black Lives Matter and demand that something had to change. And so now we're stuck with these laws that are directly targeting people of color.
We want to thank you for being with us, Reverend Cassandra Gould, Executive Director of Missouri Faith Voices, pastor at the Quinn Chapel AME Church in Jefferson City, Missouri.